Coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, this is Mythic Radio.
The first time it happened, I was sleeping and woke up because I felt a hand on my leg and I realized that I couldn't move.
And he come across this object on the ground, which was the shape of a flying saucer. So he jumped out of his pickup and went down there, and there was 4 beings laying on the ground.
When I raised my head back up, I was turning my head, and out of my peripheral vision, I seen something hop to a tree. And it was tall, about 7, 8 foot tall, and it was black, real hairy, like a gorilla.
First thing we saw was this winged creature, 14-foot wingspan at least. It was huge. It almost covered half the road.
Welcome to Mythic Radio, everybody. I'm your host, Nick. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is episode 1 of Mythic Radio. Today is May 6th, 2017. I appreciate you being here with me. First thing, and really the main thing we're talking about today, is a story that is very strange, to say the least. It happened on January 25th, 1959. At least that's when it started, I should say. We're going to talk about the Dyatlov Pass Incident. This is a story that involved 10 hikers, and they traveled into the Ural Mountains, formerly the Soviet Union. They were from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. And this is a very odd story for many different reasons, and today we're just going to cover the facts. We're not going to talk about anything that's speculation or anything of that nature. I just want you guys, if you're unaware of this story, I want to shed some light on it, and I definitely want to urge you to go and do your own research on this story and form your own opinion. So that said, let's get into it. So, January 25th, 1959, 10 backpackers/skiers embark on their journey to the Ural Mountains. And right before they start their actual expedition portion of this trip, one of the hikers falls ill. He stays behind. And then there were 9. So these 9 backpackers and hikers, they are heading toward a particular point that they are trying to get to by a certain date. That date was February 11th, 1959. They were supposed to get into their base camp. They were traveling through sub-zero temperatures at night, and when the 11th of February, 1959, comes around, they were supposed to check in with their loved ones. Telegrams were supposed to be sent. Nothing was received. So, at this point, the family members of these hikers decide, well, we're going to give them a few more days because we understand that inclement weather and natural weather conditions can have effects. They're probably okay. We'll just give them another week. So fast forward a week later, they still have not heard anything from their loved ones. So they demand that the institute where the students are from start a complete investigation. So they do. The school puts together a civilian and eventually a military search party. And they go into the Urals, and what they discover is horrifying, to say the least, and very, very, very strange. In a nutshell, what we find is that the tent is completely destroyed. Not only is the tent destroyed, but it appears that these hikers, at some point in the night, in sub-zero temperatures, cut themselves out of this tent and fled. Now, if that's not strange enough, the condition in which their bodies were found is even stranger. Multiple hikers that fled the tent fled without any clothes on. Some fled with no shoes, some fled with socks, some fled with one shoe and on one foot, and, etc. Some of the hikers were found fully clothed, but wearing others' clothing from other hikers, ripped clothing that appeared that they had cut or torn the clothing off of their deceased compatriots. Lots of different strange events. 2 of the backpackers were found very near the tent, but under a large pine tree. These 2 hikers were found next to what appeared to be a campfire that they had built. Yet both hikers appeared to have died from hypothermia. Also, what was strange about this particular area where these 2 hikers were, this tree that they were found under had missing branches about 15 feet from the base of the tree, about 15 feet up the trunk of the tree. All the branches had been pulled off. And when they investigated the tree more closely, they found that flesh from the hands of these hikers, these 2 hikers, the flesh was embedded in the tree trunk, as if they tried climbing the tree to get away from something. That's the idea that the investigators had, the searchers. So then, of course, they looked at the hands of these 2 hikers, and sure enough, their hands were just completely destroyed from trying to clamber up this tree. Other hikers were found in small groups. 4 of the other hikers were found in a makeshift trench, and they were all suffering from what appeared to be some sort of internal blunt force trauma. The odd thing about those hikers, that particular group, was that their skin did not show any sign of blunt force trauma. It was just internal, nothing external. And so they discovered this when they did autopsies. They did autopsies on all of these hikers and found that this was very odd in a lot of different ways. Then the other group of hikers that had fled in a third direction, they were found on their backs. Some of them were found in positions that looked as though they were trying to go back to the tent. And one of the female hikers in that particular group that had fled was found on her back with her mouth frozen open, and her tongue had been ripped out or eaten out, possibly from the fauna that maybe inhabited the area, or bacteria. Who knows? There was a lot of speculation there. So also they determined that her eyes were missing. So these hikers fled the tent in all sorts of degrees of undress, in sub-zero temperatures, very, very odd conditions. So I'm leaving a lot of small details out because I wanted to just give you guys the overall picture of what really happened here. Everything I have said and talked about is stuff that was documented by the search party, the civilian search party, and the military search party, I should say. Documented and is true. I have not discussed anything that has happened after the fact, because there's been a lot of folks that have kind of come up with some interesting takes on what they think has happened or what happened. One of the other strange things that apparently occurred was that after these poor deceased folks were brought back into town and they had the coroner look at them. They had autopsies done. The relatives at the funeral all stated, or most of them stated, that they believed that the skin of these deceased hikers had an orangey glow to them. And apparently the hair on the corpses had turned gray. The other strange thing is that when they were doing the autopsies and investigation on the bodies, they also did investigations, or I should say they took samples of the clothing of these hikers, and the clothing showed significant signs of radiation. Okay, that's weird. So, a couple months later, down the road, after the funerals have happened, a group of backpackers claim that on the night in question, that all these other hikers perished, that they were backpacking about 32 miles south, and they saw what appeared to be lights in the northern sky that were orange in color, and they couldn't explain what they looked like. They looked like some sort of orb in the sky. So then you start to get into this discussion where there's people that think, well, maybe it's something extraterrestrial that happened to these folks. Why do their clothes have radiation on them? Why did they leave a perfectly good tent and cut themselves out of it rather than just unclasping the door to the tent and running out? Why are they all in different forms of undress, you might ask? Lots of different theories, lots of different questions. In the coming weeks, I want to talk more about this incident. I would love if you guys would check out my website, mythicradio.com. I've got a forum up there. Feel free to start a new topic on this. I might start a topic, and feel free to put your 2 cents in there about what it is you think really might have happened here. I really want to hear your thoughts. I'm very interested to hear people's opinions on this. And it doesn't matter what you think. I want to hear it. I, in no way, shape, or form, have made up my mind on what has happened. I definitely think that there's some very odd things, and I don't think all of it can be explained away. Apparently, this area on the mountain was not a place where avalanches typically occurred. So, avalanche was definitely something that I was curious about. But apparently, the professional search team that came said that there were no signs actually of an avalanche. So that's curious as well. But there's a lot of different questions that we are going to continue to talk about over the next couple weeks. We're going to stay on this topic, and I really, really think it's going to be pretty exciting to hear what you guys have to say about it. So please don't hesitate to leave a comment. No matter where you're listening, whether it's here on Spreaker or someplace else, we are syndicated in a lot of different areas. MythicRadio.com. We've got some buttons, some links on there for you guys to find where we are on social media as well. So please follow us so that you know when we drop another podcast for you. So we're going to continue to give you guys the best quality product that we can make, and we love this stuff, and we hope you do too. So anyway, we appreciate the support, guys, and we will see you on the next episode of Mythic Radio. Take care.